Welcome to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Hi, everyone. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. I'm your host, Lee Brecheen. Our guest today, one of the former quarterbacks for LSU, one of my favorites from Archbishop Shaw High School, Mickey Guidry. Mickey, thanks for joining us today.
Good to be here this morning.
Mickey, going back to your days in 1985 to 88 and beyond that, and two SEC championship teams of 86 and 1988, we always talk about the world has changed on quarterbacks, waiting their turn, and you were one of the guys that did wait his turn and stuck it out, didn't transfer, and when you were there with Hodson, we've always, you've been asked that question millions of times, but today LSU has four quarterbacks, TJ Finley, Garrett Nussmeier, Myles Brennan, Max Johnson. What's your thoughts on these young men? And, obviously today's day, nobody stays. Four quarterbacks never stay long, but that's kind of the hot topic right now. What's your thoughts on where LSU's got four really good ones, but it's going to be hard to keep these four guys?
Yeah, I think the main thing, you mentioned things have changed. The main thing is the NCAA has finally made the environment better so that kids can take a chance, go to a place like LSU, try to compete, and if it doesn't work out for them for one reason or another, they can maneuver themselves into a better situation for them personally, and I think that's a win-win. It's a win-win for having talented kids be able to chase their dreams, and if it doesn't work out, have the ability to do something that is better for them. So LSU's in that situation. I think they've gotten into that situation due to the fact that this flexibility exists nowadays, so that these four guys, other than Brennan, who's been there for a while, the other guys that have come in feel like they can come in, take a shot at it. If it doesn't work out, they have alternatives. And so they've got four really talented guys, which might not have happened, in the old days. And so looking at it from the outside, not knowing exactly what they're thinking, they've got four guys that somewhat different in some ways, some similarities, but somewhat different. And a couple of really good athletic guys, a couple of guys, obviously that have pedigrees with their fathers, and so it's going to be a interesting thing going into the fall to see which direction they want to go. Whether you want to go with the guy who had the most snaps, who's not only in the games but also in practice for a long time, whether you want to go with someone who is younger and brings more dimensions to your offense. So they've got choices, and whoever they end up going with, I'm sure they'll lose at least one, maybe two of the other guys along the way.
Our guest is Mickey Guidry, former LSU quarterback from the 1980s. Did a great job, and have the complete respect for you, man. You hung in and didn't transfer from LSU, and they called you the greatest relief quarterback in the history of LSU.
At least I have a title.
They called you the relief pitcher. One article I think they had on you is a relief, one of the greatest to ever play at LSU. Never complained, hung in there and graduated from LSU. And we're going to talk about your company later in the show. Talk about your son at ULL later in the show, who's a really up and coming tight end. But to ask you more about the LSU quarterbacks. And this is what I was wanting to ask you, the opinions, and, everybody's got an opinion now, but, what's changed is kids want to be told if they're going to start or not to go somewhere else to play right away, to learn another system. In the old days, you could say, well, we're going to wait till, kickoff September 2nd, and I'm going to name a starter September 2nd. You got to sit out if you transfer, so you're not going to transfer. But now some of these kids' families are saying, look, I need to know by maybe July to go learn another system if I am leaving. Right. What do you think of that terminology of that new mindset with now being able to go anywhere, like you said, and play right away.
Yeah, I think it's I'm all in favor of things that favor the kids, not the schools. The schools are these big institutions. They don't always do the right things, obviously, and the kids get caught up in whether it be coaching changes, whether it be off the field, stupid political or otherwise scandals that are going on.
Yeah.
So to be able to create flexibility for the kids, Lee, is the most important thing, and I think the NCAA is finally recognizing that. So that's going to create a cultural change, right? The coaches, when they're recruiting kids, they're going to have to tell these parents and these kids, hey, look, we might have to make decisions on the starters earlier than we did in the past, because that's the demand that these young athletes and their families are going to want to have. And so you're going to have to make a cultural change, and you're going to have to stick with it. You're going to get a reputation as a coach, as a university, as to whether you are like that or not. And it's going to help or hurt you in recruiting, going forward. So it's different. Some people may not agree with it. Some old school guys think, oh man, you should be loyal to the university and yada, yada. But, based on what you see out there in the world, in the real world, kids and their families need to be taken care of and have as much flexibility as they could possibly have while trying to maintain sort of the integrity of the college football game.
Yeah.
And I think what you're seeing is this cultural movement toward that, and the coaches and their staffs and the universities are going to have to make that change. So don't know where it's going to end up, Lee, but I can tell you in the initial phases of this thing, I'm for the kids and their families much more than I am, for these big universities.
And I want to mention this: when you were playing at LSU, I'm just saying what if. I mean, this is all about what ifs. But if there would have been a rule when you played that you could have played right away without sitting out, and you would have got your degree at LSU already, and somebody like Troy University, or let's just say Tulane, says, Mickey, you come over here, you're our starter, you're a junior, you play right away.
Yeah,
it's a different deal. I mean, not saying that you would have done that, but
no, I don't know if I would have either. But yeah, that opportunity, wasn't around, and I think that again, some people may be against it, but man, again, all you got to do is just look around you and see that kids and their families need to watch out for themselves, and not in a selfish way, just in a, it's these kids' futures.
Yeah.
And you get caught in a bad situation, you should have some flexibility. And it's taken the NCAA a long time to recognize and realize that, but I think it's a good thing.
Well, I always say, put yourself in their shoes, meaning the kids and the
Absolutely.
parents. Because you don't know how those shoes feel unless you're in them. At that time.
And Lee, you've done this a long time with kids, and been involved in Louisiana recruiting and seen tons of stories throughout your career where if the rules would have been a little bit different, kids might have had a better outcome. So you've seen it.
I think of Matt Flynn and you.
Because
Matt,
a lot of
similarities there with you and Matt Flynn sticking out. Had your degrees already with a year left. But we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have more of Mickey Guidry, former LSU quarterback, and we're going to talk about Mickey's son, Rhett Guidry, who basically is a redshirt tight end, even though he played a little bit last year, but he gets another year. But from Dunham High School in Baton Rouge, that's right, a tight end, not a quarterback, but he's a good-looking young tight end. He's still growing. He's got a big frame. We're going to talk about that and also talk about what Mickey's doing these days and talk about the NFL draft. I'm going to get Mickey's opinion on what he thinks of Jamar Chase, obviously, and Terrace Marshall, and Jabril Cox, the linebacker that came from North Dakota State, much more. We'll be right back. Listen, whatever you're driving right now, Tommy Harvey wants it. Bring it in to Harvey Subaru, Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City, or John Harvey Toyota. They're paying big bucks for all trades right now. They'll cut you a check right there. Tell them Lee sent you. Welcome back. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. Our guest today is Mickey Guidry, former LSU quarterback. I got to mention Archbishop Shaw. Give them some plug there. The Eagles on the West Bank. And look, before we talk about your son, Rhett Guidry, Mickey Shaw's doing good. I watched him last year. They've been kind of down as far as talent, not numbers, but talent. But the talent looks like it's getting better. And I just think this, from watching what's coming back, this might be the most talent team they've had in 15 years this coming year.
Well, that's great. I mean, it's post-Katrina, everything kind of changed down there in that area, and Shaw was one of the I think victims of the whole Katrina experience, and I knew it would take a while for them to come back because obviously the West Bank side of the New Orleans area has always produced a lot of really talented athletes from Eric, West Jeff, Carr, all those places, and I think when the money went into these schools and improved the public schools down on the West Bank side of New Orleans, a lot of kids opted not to go to Shaw anymore and stayed in some of the public schools, which was a good thing.
Yeah. But
the athletic base that Shaw really relied on through the 80s and the 90s really deteriorated, and the overall enrollment went down. And so good to hear that they're on the rise and coming back.
Tommy Connors is the head coach. We had Tommy in the magazine. I know you remember Tommy was an all-conference DB at Southeastern, a great coach, young, really good young coach. Played for Coach Hank Turney like yourself and many other Eagles, but Tommy's doing a great job. And when the talent's better when they had 0 prospects for 7 years. And this year, Mickey, they have probably as many as 10 kids that could go 1AA or better this coming year in their senior class. So their talent in that league, you got to have some talent in the Catholic League to win. You just can't have numbers, so it's good to see them coming back. I want to talk about your son, number 82. Is that going to be his jersey still numbered, 82?
Yeah, looks like he's 82.
82, because I asked, because I know they change numbers year to year. But Rhett Guidry's, you told me he's pushing 240, almost 236, 238. And I remember helping you do the highlight tape when he was a senior. He was in that 210 range, 215?
He probably played a senior year, 215, 218, and he's he got there last year and jumped in the middle of a really strange year, right?
Yeah.
He right when he got there, he actually tested positive for the virus, and had to miss some time right before the season. And we all did, actually. We all as a family went through it all in July of last year. So he, then not going to class, having everything online, not having any sort of social gatherings. Coaches really discouraged that because they were trying to get that season in last year,
Yeah.
Just a strange year to be a freshman in college,
Mickey, let me ask you this as a parent, because other parents will relate that listen to the show to you, or maybe they have kids in high school. What was that like going through that, having a son in college in another city, and you and your wife and your son? I mean, you're locked up, as a kid. You can't even go see your teammates during this. I mean, it's different.
It was strange. I mean, he, his routine was, in the first, I guess, 6 to 8 weeks was, dorm room to athletic facility, and that's it. No classes, no outside gatherings, no anything. And, very strange. And then they changed during the middle of the semester where they made them go to a room on campus to take their online classes. So at least they would actually go to campus. And they had an athletic designated room where all the athletes would go and basically take their online classes. But man, I tell you what, really, really strange. And, it was rough on my son particularly because, he kept like, what the heck's going on here? This is not what college is supposed to be like, and so hopefully things will be a little bit different this fall. I think he's got a different attitude. He had a great spring. He gained some weight. I think what he did more than anything was just, recommitted himself to hey, I went through this craziness in the fall. Now it's time to get back to football.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can tell you, I went to the spring game last Thursday night, and you could tell the enthusiasm on that team. They had people in the stands. They had, it was a good atmosphere. And, obviously anybody that knows, Coach Napier knows that, they look like a mini Alabama out there. It's organized. It's very coordinated, and you can tell who's running the show. And they've got a pretty good team.
Mickey, I want to take a break, bring you back. I want to get your thoughts on Billy Napier when we come back in the ULL team. Your son's 6'5". I want to throw that out. He's 236, going to be over 240 come fall. Really excited. Got great hands, great speed. Really love his hands all the way going back to Dunham. He's got great hands. But when we come back, I want to get your thoughts on Billy Napier and what you think of their offense and how good they could be this coming year. We'll be right back with more Mickey Guidry. Looking for a used car? Harvey Autos has 3 dealerships, which means 3 times the used vehicles. They've got everything from fuel-efficient compacts to luxury models, even hybrids, and certified pre-owned with a warranty. Check out John Harvey Toyota, Harvey Subaru, or Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City. Welcome back. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. Our guest today is Mickey Guidry. And Mickey, ULL, you were at the spring game. Your son's on the team. But what do you think? You talked about the power of being a leader, which Napier's a leader, and 2, he's organized. You got to have those. What do you think of Billy Napier as a coach? I mean, he's contagiously got that stuff, right? Like we talk about recruits have that stuff. They have it. He has it as a coach, right?
Absolutely. When I spoke to him as a father, trying not to be a former player or, that kind of stuff, just as a father, I felt the sincerity in his voice as a man. Also, I watched their team intimately, not just in games. I watch, a lot of other things that go along with the program. He's a Saban disciple guy. I mean, I hate to label him that way, but, the great ones know how to, take the best of what they learn from guys around them and incorporate it into their own personality. And I think Billy's done that. And, I have a lot of respect for him. He's been, he's been tough with my son and some of the other players, but he's been fair, just like you would expect. He lost Rob Sale to the NFL.
Yeah.
Who is, one of the up and coming guys in this game. But their running game is the envy of the country. They have an incredible, sophisticated running game that utilizes tight ends. That's why they have a lot of them on the roster. I mean, my son's in a tough spot in terms of competing for playing time because they keep a lot of tight ends on the roster because they use them a lot. Sometimes they have three tight ends on the field,
and that's a good thing. It's a good thing.
No, it's a good thing. Yeah. It's a good thing. Yeah. But it's a competitive situation.
Yeah.
And Billy's Nape is a hard-nosed guy. If you've seen him interviewed on TV, you can tell he's a no-nonsense guy that cares about the kids and cares about his program. And I wish we could keep him at UL till he retires, but with the money that's being thrown around for head coaches, at the Power 5 schools around the country, I'm sure at some point he's going to have a tough decision to make about, what's best for his family and his future and his love for UL. But he's a good guy. And, I really respect the fact that he's been able to create a tremendous amount of success over there in Lafayette. And look, for those that haven't been over there to Lafayette, they've got Power 5 facilities.
Yeah, they do.
He's as far as being in a non-Power 5 place, it's about as good as it gets around the country. So people in Louisiana should be proud of that, whether you're an LSU fan or a McNeese fan or anywhere.
Right. That
the fact that we have another school in Louisiana that has, enough support that they could put together what I would consider, Power 5 type, facilities to attract kids from the region and around the country. to come play in Louisiana.
Yeah, their indoor facility is top notch, and then they've got their coach's facility that was built. Their weight room is off the charts. Rob Sell, just for people who don't know who Rob Sell is, he was a Neville High School offensive lineman that played at LSU. He's now with the Giants, I believe, and
that's right.
That's a big loss. But they look, when you're Billy Napier and you're winning, you can get those good coaches to come in and replace good coaches. And
absolutely, you look at Nick Saban. He's a master at it, right? So you learn from those guys to be ready. You know the guys you're going to lose. You know the guys who or people will be hungry to come get, and you start the process of looking way ahead.
Yeah. I want to mention too, and I want to take one more break and bring Mickey back, but I want to talk about that great offensive line at ULL. I mean, they've got some men on that offensive line. And
they do, and that's true.
And Mickey, you agree with me because your son's on the team. You're seeing it. A lot of people don't recognize it, but they have an SEC offensive line in talent and D-line. I mean, they've got some guys that can play at that school. And like you said, they're bringing in players that are a little bit better than the normal outside the top 25, outside the Power 5 conferences. But we'll be right back with more Mickey Guidry on the Sports Scouting Report. So, hey, guys, just wanted to take a minute to tell you about Harvey Autos. If you need a new or used car, there's 3 great dealerships right here worth checking out. John Harvey Toyota, Harvey Subaru, and Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City. Low prices, honest people. Tell them Lee sent you. Welcome back. You listen to the Sports Scouting Report. Our guest is Mickey Guidry, former LSU quarterback and Archbishop Shaw Eagle. Mickey, we talked about your son, Rhett. This is his second year. He's getting his year back, really like a redshirt freshman, which is good. And they're carrying those 8 tight ends for those 4 spots. So I hope he gets one of those 4. And usually you do because somebody's going to probably get bruised up. So you're going to play at least 5, right? If they're playing 3 right now, you said they're rotating as many as 3 with the H-backs?
Yeah, they get they'll travel 4 or 5 on the road, because of their use. So his job is to be a good special teams guy and try to be one of those backups. That's his thing, right? They open up in Austin. They open up at Texas. So he wants to try to get on that plane. It's going to be tough, but he's going to try to get on that plane in August, early September to go to Austin. And they have a competitive football team. One of the big things, Lee, and you know this, the difference between Power 5 schools and non-Power 5 schools is mostly on the O-line and D-line.
Right.
Everybody's got athletes.
Right.
But, there's only so many of those real big guys.
Mm-hmm.
And normally the Alabamas and the Clemsons and the LSUs get most of them in their region. And so for UL to have a group of guys that can compete is special. And you saw it last year when UL went up to Iowa State and put a whipping on them. They were able to go toe-to-toe, and I think they'll be able to go toe-to-toe with Texas in September as well. That doesn't mean that they could win or lose.
Right.
I don't, that's all, you don't know. But they have the personnel to be able to go compete like a lot of schools don't. And most of that is in the trenches. And so, UL's got a very last few years, good reputation for running the football, controlling the line of scrimmage, and going to Texas, they're going to have to put their best foot forward because Texas will line up guys on the line of scrimmage that are talented as well, and if you can at least neutralize that. Our skill guys have a lot of experience, and our quarterback's played a lot of snaps, and he's a pretty savvy guy. So special teams too. We beat Iowa State last year on special teams, basically.
Yeah. And
they spend a lot of time on special teams there. My son talked about it a lot. That's a big credit to Napier as well because he recognizes that special teams need to be the best, and he focuses on that.
And you know what? The thing that I wouldn't want to – Sarkisian's probably going, man, who scheduled this game? He gets the job from Alabama, and he's looking at Levi Lewis, who's got 5 years, playing. He's got 3 running backs at ULL that are SEC backs. And then you got 3 pro prospects on the O-line at UL that are going to get drafted. One was drafted last year. They're going to have one drafted today. And they've got Max Mitchell and a couple of other ones coming back that are incredible. And then they've got some really good D linemen. And really, like you said, skill-wise, UL's always been really good at DB and receiver. And then obviously tight end, the position your son plays. But if I'm Sarkisian, I'm thinking, man, why didn't we schedule like Richmond or something? No offense to Richmond, but I mean somebody that you can just put the second team in third quarter. That's not going to be this game.
No, they're going to give them a fight. They'll give them a fight.
And like you said, anything's possible with the offense because UL can score some points, and they can control that clock with that big O line. That's what impressed me at Iowa State, Mickey, is that they held the clock, the time of possession, 5.5 to 6 minutes with that offensive line. They couldn't stop the run game at Elijah Mitchell and all those backs they had. I mean, they just could not stop them. In Iowa State, it was at Iowa State. People forget that. And Iowa State was what, preseason top 12?
Yeah, they ended up having a great season, and we clipped them early, and I just think it's the same situation. Do we have a chance to beat Texas? Obviously we do because we've been there, and UL is a place, like I said, that they invested in the facilities. They've got kids that are coming into that program that are pretty high caliber, and the biggest thing, like we talked about earlier, is they getting the guys in the trenches. And if you don't start there, you can't be competitive to go play these Power 5 schools.
Also want to mention, and we got to mention this, I mean, you not only played at LSU and Shaw High School in New Orleans, but on the West Bank, but you're also were in the Arena League for a long time with the San Antonio Riders, the Sacramento Surge, the New Orleans Knight. People forget those names.
That's all old school stuff. Played in the World League for a couple of years before it was NFL Europe, and played some arena football. But man, I love the game. I love how it's evolving. I love the rule changes to make it safer for the kids. Hopefully, it's a game that people begin to respect again because of the focus we have on at least trying to do the right things. And I just hope it keeps evolving into a better and better game.
And Mickey, you know what I like? We got a chance at full attendance come September.
Yeah, that's the best part about the sport is getting people together and letting the kids have that great experience. So
don't you feel? Tell me if I'm wrong, Mickey. The past year, you're like me and everybody else that loves sports. We watch what we watch on TV, whatever was on at the time. You're watching games that were not impacted by, there was no emotion, no fans. Fans bring you that edge. They say fans, that no fans, the yelling, the noise, that you can't hear the count. I mean, I want the stadiums packed again. That's football. That's sports.
Yeah, I think it cost the Saints the Super Bowl.
I do too.
So the Saints had a Super Bowl team. They had it rolling, and not having the crowd was a big detriment to their goals. I know.
And Tom Brady, who's like 55 years old, still winning them, huh, Mickey?
We could spend a whole hour talking about him, but that's kind of an indicator that wisdom and experience can overcome a lot of things, especially the quarterback position where you can play it now late into your career because of the way the offenses have evolved and protecting the quarterback and that kind of stuff. You can't be 45 and play cornerback, but you can still play quarterback.
Right. So. You can be a long snapper at 45, but not any other positions. Maybe I remember George Blanda played kicker. He was 50, maybe 49, something like that.
That's right.
Earl Morrell, who Arnsparger had on his Dolphins team. Remember Earl Morrell?
Yeah.
Some old timers that played. Billy Kilmer played a long time, and I think almost his 40s. But Mickey, I appreciate you being on. Talk about what you're doing now. Promote your company. You're in one of the top investment companies in the state. I want to give you a chance to promote what you do. I know that y'all are in Baton Rouge. This goes all over Louisiana. But tell everybody what you're doing now.
Yeah, I'm a partner in a firm called Altus Wealth Management, ALTUS, and we've sort of really built a nice investment firm here. You said you have a nice audience in North Louisiana. We do a lot of business in North Louisiana. One of my partners, Wally McMakin, is an old North Louisiana guy, and so he's up there. He was up there earlier in the week, as a matter of fact. And so we have a statewide reach. We try to help families, with their financial planning and investments, and all the other things that go around that. And I've got good partners, good LSU partners, Wally, Jesse Daigle, some other guys that have real ties to the state of Louisiana. So we're proud of what we do here, and just look forward to continuing to do things for people and their families that help them into the future.
Mickey, I appreciate it. I know you got to go back to work. Don't hang up. I want to tell you about. I want to end the show. Everybody go to our website, lafootballmagazine.com. Actually, your son is going to be in the preview for ULL. All ULL fans listening, we do a really good preview on ULL, the Ragin Cajuns, and all the colleges and all the high schools. It'll be out in September. I know Mickey will be getting a copy. It's got all the teams in it, recruiting. Go to lafootballmagazine.com, and we'll see you on Monday.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.